Retired Colonel Dr. Besigye. I want the people of Besigye to salute retired Colonel Dr. Besigye. Freedom for all! All for freedom! And I want also the National Convention to salute Dr. Besigye all the way to Luzira. Freedom for all! All for freedom! He has had. Dr. Besigye is a medical doctor, as you know, and he is a freedom fighter, as you know. Together with the Honorable Major General Mugisha Muntu, they were in Luwero for the 5 years. And Luwero wasn't a disco hall. They had hoped that that would be the defining moment for Uganda to be liberated once and for all. Unfortunately, along the way, they found that they were being shortchanged and that the entire struggle was being squandered. And so in 1999, on the eve of the millennium, he authored a letter to his comrades in the hope that they would retract from the dangerous path they had taken. And so it was that letter of 1999 that he bravely authored and published to all of us Ugandans that led him to found Reform Agenda, participated in the 2001 presidential elections, the most violent elections on record. There was a committee in Parliament that was set up to investigate this violence, and it was led by the Honorable Dan Wandera Ogalo. Dan Wandera Ogalo, as a seasoned lawyer, brought to book all the atrocities, the killings, the maiming of the people that supported retired Colonel Dr. Besigye in 2001. Together with NDF, National Development Forum, led by Chairman Chapak Alhanga, and the Parliamentary Advocacy Forum, led by Augustine Ruzindana, Reform Agenda, and the two, PAFO and NDF, formed the Forum for Democratic Change, which died at the age of 20. It survived teenage pregnancy, it survived child abuse, it survived the killer diseases of young people, but it got decapitated at the age of 20. At an appropriate time, I read for you the post-mortem report of Forum for Democratic Change, a party we love, a party that we formed with our passion and zeal, the hope of the nation. And also at an appropriate time, I read for you the will from that. Dr. Besigye is recorded as the man that has been imprisoned for many times and winning all the charges placed against him. He continues to be our leader in the struggle for freedom. In our last visit to him, in that ugly yellow uniform, he said to us, as long as you get the business going, I am good to go. And so here we are launching a party, and he'd like to speak to us. I want all of you to sound a salute for him again. Freedom for all. All for freedom. Yes, can we hear from the retired? Yes.
Greetings to all of you. Excellence. My name is Besigye. I want us to talk about our future. The situation of our country, as all of you know, is quite bad right now. We have a country where most of our young people have no jobs, where we have a lot of people in poverty, poor services, poor education, poor health care, poor infrastructure, and people that are now in a country that is so rich and endowed, people are having no food to eat. People are dying of hunger. All these problems and more have come about because of how we have managed our country. Our country has a lot of resources. Those resources are not serving its people. So that's why we have people that are in trouble, that are in suffering, while the resources are there in the country. How has this come about? And how can we get out of this situation? We have a country that has been independent for more than 50 years, but that has never changed leaders peacefully. All our leaders have come into power using guns, using force, through war, causing death of many people, destroying even what infrastructure and properties have been built over the years. Now, the violent changes have meant that we, the people, have no control over the governments. Governments do what they like, and we cannot influence what is going on for our benefit. When elections are held, they are held simply to show that some people may be participating, but as we all know, the voices of the people are not respected during elections. Indeed, that is why the current regime had a war lasting 5 years that started after an election, a rigged election. And that's how all elections have been. So the situation, once you're in a country where a few people control the country without being under the control of the greatest majority of the people, that situation is called a dictatorship. What we have been having in our country all these years is a dictatorship. Control of a country by a few people. When we talk about control of a country, what do we mean? We mean that the control of decision making to decide for the country is in the hands of a few people. The greatest majority of the people have no say. For example, we have been having our armies going to fight in all kinds of countries. People in Uganda have never decided whether we want our young people to go to those wars that our people are fighting today. It's the decision of a few. How our money here in the country is used to what benefit is a decision of the few. And that decision making within the country is the most important that directs how things happen and who benefits in the country. Once you don't have the power to decide, you don't benefit from the decisions that are made. So our country is controlled by a few in decision making. Our country is controlled by a few in how institutions organizations within the country are run, how departments of government are run, even private institutions like business sector, like the churches, like cultural institutions, they do not have freedom to run those institutions without interference from the few people that control the government. So, control of the country is through control of institutions of the country. The parliament, the courts of law are controlled, the military security institutions are controlled and used for the benefit of those few. And as I have said, even private non-state institutions are controlled. Thirdly, a country is controlled through the control of our resources. All our resources are controlled by those few people. We have no say in how those resources are applied. And this is one of the things that has been used in our own country to create the poverty and hopelessness that we see in our people. People pay taxes every day. All of us, even the poorest in the country, pays a lot of tax because on everything that you use, everything that you buy, there is a lot of tax on it. That tax is collected by the regime, but it's not used for the benefit of those who pay it. So money is drained, it goes away, it does not come back. People become poorer every day. While a few people that control these resources become richer and indeed have a lot of resources that they can use to further control the country. Lastly, the major form of control of the country is through controlling information and letting only people hear or get the information the few people want them to hear and restricting the hearing or access to information that the few people do not want them to access. So that control of information then is used to control people's minds and understanding. So I want you to understand that the dictatorship we have has led to the control of all these things: control of decision making, control of institutions, control of resources, control of information. The dictator uses the control of those things to now entrench itself. Because, as I have pointed out to you, a dictatorship comes into being through use of force. It continues to use that force to cause fear in the population, fear of sanctions, fear that you are going to be killed, you are going to be imprisoned, your property is going to be taken away, or you are not going to get an opportunity for yourself, for your children. People live in fear. That is one of the strongest tools that every dictatorship uses: fear. The use of force to cause fear. Secondly, because the dictatorship controls all the institutions and all the resources, they grant favors to those who comply with what they want. If you are willing to support the dictatorship, they can give you a favor by way of giving you some resources, maybe giving you money, giving you a job in the institutions that they control, or giving you any material benefit that from the resources and institutions that they control. So people are held captive through expectation of favors, through bribes, through renting, hiring their support. Thirdly, because as I have said, the dictatorship controls information. That information is used by way of propagating wrong information that the government or the regime, the dictatorship wants you to hear, which is called propaganda. They keep on drumming the same information, and because people are not listening to other sources of information, they start believing the wrong information that the regime is presenting to them. And this information is always aimed at one, creating an impression that the regime is solving people's problems. Like they have been saying, you are going to get rich in Amgenda Kagawala, that people are going to get out of their problems very soon. They drum it up and people get into expectation that they are going to get out of their problems. They also create information that puts those who oppose the dictatorship in a bad light. They want to show that those who are opposing the dictatorship are the problem. They are terrorists. They are the ones creating the poverty because they stop people working. They are the ones who are disturbing peace. The dictatorship will want to paint those who are fighting for freedom as the problem, while painting the dictatorship itself as a solution for people's problem. So this is the role of propaganda. And I'm sure all of you have been hearing these repeated things that we who are opposing the dictatorship are driven by hatred, are driven by vengeance. We want to revenge. We want to cause bloodshed. We want to cause war. So that is the role of propaganda. We need to be very aware. Lastly, among the things I want to point out that a dictatorship uses to control our people is to divide us. Divided, we are weak. We cannot stand up to the dictatorship. And the dictatorship uses many approaches to divide our people by way of dividing the religions, dividing tribes, dividing communities into small administrative groups, and dividing families, cultural groupings, and institutions, every form of organized people infiltrated and divided. As I am talking to you, the people of Kasese are still having a lot of problems that have caused many deaths as a result of these divisions. We have seen the same here in Uganda, where we went through very violent riots in 2009 that left many people dead. You are hearing this in Busoga over the Chawazingas and other parts of the country. So this is the problem that we have in our country. Control of our resources, institutions, decision making, information by the dictatorship. So how do we remove a dictatorship? I want you to understand that when you are captured, if somebody is strangling you, it is unreasonable to just plead with your voice, don't kill me, just to release me. Getting out of a dictatorship is achieved through one method. That method is struggle. It means people must stand up and struggle and fight, not plead. Pleading is not enough. It will never work. Struggle is the only way of getting out of a dictatorship. So what we can only talk about are forms of struggle. And there are two main forms of struggle. Either you struggle using violent means or using non-violent means. Now, the struggle that we saw, which brought Mr. Museveni to power, the Bush War that involved many people in our country, is a form of violent struggle. That struggle can lead to a dictator being removed. Indeed, when Museveni came to power, it was through such a struggle. However, we must understand that Our struggle now cannot be just to remove a dictator. What we need is beyond removing a dictator, because the Museveni struggle removed the dictator but did not solve the problem. We must replace a dictator with a system where people have power, have control over decision making, over institutions, over resources, over information. So the end of the struggle should not be the removal of the dictator. It should be the installation of people as the ones in charge, not installation of another dictator. Therefore, whereas armed struggle leads to removal of a dictator, it is inappropriate in building a democratic society. That is why we have deliberately considered that our struggle now must focus on use of non-violent means. Non-violent struggle is a very potent struggle, just like the armed struggle. In fact, it has more advantages because there are fewer casualties. You have far less destruction of property, far less loss of people in non-violent struggle. But it is very potent, very powerful in removing a dictator. Unfortunately, our people have now forgotten that we actually won independence from the British, who were, very strong and armed. But we won independence through non-violent struggle, through the boycotts, through the demonstrations and non-cooperation with the colonial regime. So what we consider as the right method of struggle at the moment in our country, Uganda, is non-violent struggle. And as I have pointed out, you must mark the word struggle. Some people confuse non-violence with peaceful. No, non-violent does not mean peaceful, but it means without use of weapons on our side of the struggle. But the regime will infuse a lot of violence in the non-violent struggle. They use brutality to beat, to kill, to harm our people, as they have been doing. And that is what causes sometimes our people to become discouraged and say, how can we fight those who are armed when we are not armed? How shall we protect ourselves from the weapons of the dictator? Now, understand this. There are many methods that we can use, including those that don't bring us in direct conflict with the dictator, but which have the effect of greatly weakening the dictator. So, non-violent struggle, which is also called defiance or even resistance, is the use of people's own power to challenge and remove a dictatorship by organizing non-violent actions. For this to happen, there are stages of the struggle that we must go through, which is we must change our minds to understand that it is us to liberate ourselves. What the dictatorship causes is to remove confidence from people that they have the capacity to change their situation. And that's why in our country today, when people are in problems, you hear them all over the country saying, tusaba government ye tuyambe. They have no capacity to know that they can cause the changes they want by themselves. We have to change our minds to regain confidence that this is our country, we own it, we have the ability to control it, and we now must move to do so. So we must change our people's minds. Changing those minds is through talking to them. A few people realize it first, they must keep on talking to the others. Each and everyone is critical in changing the situation in which we are, that we cannot be passive. We cannot beg other people to change things for us. So that is a campaign that all of us must involve ourselves with. Everybody has a duty to influence as many people as possible to regain the confidence that this is our country. When that is going on, the people who will best do that are those who are willing to sacrifice. So people must volunteer, must come out and make it their duty. And those who come out and volunteer and say, no, I am going to become active in this, are the people we call leaders. Leaders resources, move around to make sure that people in my community understands this message, and that then through understanding steps, and so that when there is action to be taken, those people they are leading into action. So training of leaders goes hand in hand with organization of communities. It is important to understand that a struggle has a specific objective, and do not think that removal of the dictatorship, which is the ultimate objective of this nonviolent struggle, that it is the only way in which to struggle against the dictatorship. Your community using nonviolent means is part of the bigger struggle. So all communities must improve their lot through struggle at all levels. If you have a village where you are not getting some services that you should be getting, you are contributing to get services but you are not getting them, you can use these same non-violent means of struggle to challenge the situation you are involved in, to make sure that it changes in your locality. And that is very important because it focuses everyone on that problem. For example, there is now a problem of land grabbing in the whole country. If some people have come to grab your land, you can organize in your community and say, we must challenge these people who want to grab our land. We should not allow our land to be taken. And by involving everyone who wants to protect their land and taking action that can lead to those who want to grab it, not to grab it, it empowers those people to know their power and their influence. So our struggles should be structured around interests, around problems that practically affect our people in our communities. So that is how we are going to be building the struggle from below and going upwards. Now, I've been talking about changing the dictatorship using struggle. It was weaker and weaker, and you see it through the economy, through the change that serve the people, not the dictatorship. And lastly, we must have free and fair elections. That then will conclude the transition, and the transition will lead to a free Uganda, a prosperous Uganda. Once we stop. The people were simply standing here. USA, 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 USA. We shall overcome. Never, never surrender. Never, never, never surrender. Never, never, never surrender. Never, never, never surrender. Never, never surrender. We shall never, never, never surrender.